This book of Hours, known as the Hours of Jeanne, is a visually enrapturing and spiritually inspiring work of devotional art. Now in the collection of the Cloisters Museum, it was created by the French Gothic artist Jean Pucelle. Uniting elegant imagery and sacred text, Pucelle's 14th century illuminated manuscript cultivates a piety in which sight is fulfilled in belief. Jeanne, for whom this book of Hours was commissioned, was the Queen of France, and there is even an image of the Queen in this book of Hours. On the page depicting the Annunciation, below the figure of Gabriel, is a letter D. Within this elaborate letter, we see Jeanne kneeling in prayer. Note that the Queen is holding a text. Perhaps this is meant to be the very same book that we are looking at. The inclusion of the Queen within her own book of Hours is a visualization of the faith that this manuscript was intended to cultivate. This image of the Queen, using an illuminated manuscript as an aid to her prayers, underscores the personal devotional purpose of this book of Hours. In the Gothic era, illuminated manuscripts such as this one were regarded as more than aesthetic objects. Books of Hours were designed to be used at specific times throughout the day in order to continually refocus the reader's mind towards God. While delighting in the magnificence of Pucelle's visual method, the modern viewer should remember that this book of Hours was created to inspire the Gothic spiritual imagination, moving the reader from sight to faith. The aesthetic subtlety and spiritual complexity of Jean Pucelle's book of Hours is even more impressive when we realize how very small this manuscript actually is. Each page is less than 4 by 3 inches. The fact that Pucelle's images occupy the entire page might lead the viewer to forget how small the book, and therefore the images, actually are. This problem can be exacerbated when we are looking at the full-page images in reproduction with no other point of reference for measuring the book's size. However, when encountering this illuminated manuscript at the Cloisters Museum, its size is immediately striking. The intimate size of Pucelle's book of Hours directly contributes to its purpose of inspiring a very personal form of devotion. Before 20th century technologies of reproduction and enlargement, the Hours of Jeanne could only be studied by one reader at a time. Perhaps more importantly, the book's format and the intricacy of Pucelle's imagery encourages, even requires, the single reader to draw near to the page and carefully study every detail. The exquisite nuances of Pucelle's images set a certain pace of viewing, an unhurried pace. The intensity of visual concentration required to read these depictions of Christ's infancy and passion is meant to translate into a heightened spiritual attention. The Hours of Jeanne was designed to focus the reader's eye, mind, and spirit towards a meditation on Christ. Visually engaging this tiny book of Hours requires a sustained and focused concentration. All other distractions need to be blocked out. These are the same demands of spiritual meditation. Therefore, Looking carefully at Pucelle's illuminated text is in itself a sort of spiritual exercise. In the Hours of Jeanne, text and imagery are united by their spiritual purpose. One of the principal tenets of Gothic devotional art was the proposition that seeing could encourage believing. As the visual richness of Jean Pucelle's Book of Hours entices us to look more closely, we are absorbed into a world of faith and grace.